shape and the look of the vessel is more important than having what might be said around it. It's just a design at this point. Yeah.
What would they use for like the ink to write the this?
Various minerals. You can get black with mineral pigments or with plant-based pigments, charcoal. A lot of the reds come from ochres of different qualities, so they're by controlling how much oxygen or the iron ratio in the mineral, you can get the yellows and the reds. And the blacks can be iron-rich or from plant-based, essentially carbon. It's a difficult thing to figure out often just by looking at it. Some of them look very similar. We have tools today, thank goodness, that we can figure this out. So one process that we use fairly frequently in archaeology now is called is utilizing a tool called a portable X-ray fluorescence gun. So it's basically an X-ray gun that we can take around, put it on a substrate or a material, shoot a beam of electrons at it, and measure the electron energy that results from that, and determine what chemical or what elements are in that substance. So if it's carbon-based, we would be able to see carbon. If it's iron-based, we would see the iron. If it's magnesium, we would see the magnesium. That's also how we can identify the obsidian. We trace the mineral elements to the specific lava flows. So it's the same technology that maybe at a higher quality and caliber that you can use in the construction industry when people are like, how do you find out if it's lead paint? You may have seen people like go and point a gun at something. That's what they're doing. It's the same basic technology. Theirs is just specialized for dangerous chemicals and finding hazards. Any other questions? Okay. I like this one. I'm just going to rotate to save some time. This is a lovely mace head. More ceremonial than functional. We have other mace heads that are much more functional. The purpose of a mace head is to bust things apart. Right? You put it on the end of a stick and you smash things. So imagine that coming at you, that pointy tip, solid rock. It takes a lot to resist that. Even if you're wearing like metal armor, you're going to just have significant bruising, if not bending of that metal. So mace heads as weapons are fairly common throughout Mesoamerica because they're so effective at just clobbering people. This one comes from just outside of Mesoamerica, so we're moving down into Central America. This is from the Nicoya Peninsula. The Nicoya culture is roughly contemporaneous with the classic Maya, so about 400, 700 AD. They're just not as well documented and studied. They fall outside of the Mesoamerican definition of cultural traits. So they have pottery, they have very elaborate polychrome pottery, multiple colors, but they're just on that outside, so they get left out from the discussion. Yeah.
Is that in Nicaragua?
Yeah. Nicaragua, Costa Rica, in that zone. So sometimes there's a perception of like, well, we've got these amazing civilizations in Mexico and Guatemala and down in the Andes, and there wasn't really anything in between. There was stuff in between. There were trade networks going up and down the west coast of the Americas for 1,000+ years. We have metal items that are traded up into the southwest in the 1200s. The metal's coming from southern Mexico, but even a little further south, we're still finding copper and stuff that's been traded up from the Andes. So we've got trade routes going thousands of miles. Okay. We'll jump to the next one. We have 5 minutes. We're going to go to a modern one. This is a backstrap loom. It's a fairly common weaving loom in Central America and Mesoamerica. It's highly portable. It's easy for the weaver, who historically weaving was done on backs by women because it was so portable. You can just take it. This side would be tied to a post or a tree or something like that. This side loops around this end, and you put the strap around your back. You kneel and you control the tension in the weaving by how much you rock forward or backward. Then when you need a break, to move on to other stuff, you unstrap and you just roll this up, put it aside, and you can pick it back up when you need to. Much more convenient, much more portable than other loom styles, like later loom styles that the Spanish brought in, these giant looms, European style looms that would do yards and yards and yards long, and you can do almost any width, wide. You just have to make the machine that big. These ones, you're really constrained by the width that you can do. So on the loom, even now, Maya women will wear a traditionally woven or replicating traditionally woven techniques in this women's blouse. If you look closely at it, you can see that this actually was hand woven. It was not machine woven. These embroidery pieces were woven into it, not sewn into it. So that width of about 3 feet wide is about all you can do on this. So you can make your blouse out of one single piece of fabric, cut a hole in the middle, drape it over your shoulders, sew the sides up if you wanted to, and move on. Your dress is done, or your blouse is done. Similarly, a dress could be the same thing. You just wrap it around your skirt, around your torso, a solid single piece of fabric. Anyone familiar with Maya weaving? What's unique, maybe, about Maya weaving, or factoid that you know?
I would say, probably the patterns are probably very unique to their culture.
Very unique to community. So traditionally, you would identify where a woman or man, sorry, came from because of the patterning of the clothing and the colors. So this repeal has a square neck. You'll find round necks. You'll find just slits. Each of those combined with the patterns and colors on here will tell you where the person came from. Very, very identifiable. So this one came from San Pedro, Zacatecas. This is the style. You really didn't deviate much from it. One thing that I really like about this one is there's this diamond pattern in here that some people believe represents the depiction of the cosmos. So by using this, you're actually wearing your understanding of the cosmos. Some people, in a different vein, think that the wheat peel actually represents the cosmos with the 4 corners, and that you center yourself in the cosmos by putting your head through the center of your blouse, which I think that's crazy cool. Okay, I really want to get to this one in the last 30 seconds. This lovely specimen was collected by Benjamin, his name. What is his name? Benjamin Clough. Anybody heard the name Benjamin Clough before? And the next year, during BYU's 150th anniversary, if you don't hear his name, ask people why you don't hear his name. Benjamin Clough was the president of Brigham Young Academy in the late 1800s and early 1900s. In 1901, he said, I want to go on an expedition. So he put together an expedition of several faculty members and students and said, we're going to go on this expedition to South America. So they traveled from Utah, through Arizona, through northern Mexico, through Panama, into Colombia. They collected this and about 40 other items, thinking that they were ancient artifacts. There was a community in Colombia that had been duping Western collectors for about 40 years by the time he got there with these objects that they were passing off as ancient pieces. That wasn't discovered until the 1920s. In the 20s, a lot of museums that had those items decided, well, we don't want fakes, so they got rid of them. This to me has so much more significance to it. One, it's connected with BYU institutional history. So his purpose to go down there was they wanted to find the lands of the Book of Mormon. They wanted to do sort of reconnaissance for proselyting work. And the third objective is they were collecting specimens for the University Museum. Whether that was successful or not, we don't have time to talk about today. But this to me is really interesting because it was the economic livelihood for that community for about 50 years, even though it was fake. So as anthropologists, I love this object. It says so much more about that community than if they really had bought ancient stuff. We know what was going on. We can see motives in that community. A need, economic decision making, all of that is represented in this one object. I think that's probably wrong. About too. Any questions? I can talk for hours about the Clough expedition. It would make the best movie if BYU, but BYU couldn't produce it, but it would make the best movie. As a little, what happened in 1902 in Central America. The Panama Canal was still a few years out, and revolution was happening. Panama was still part of Colombia, and the Civil War was going on while the BYU expedition was moving through Panama. They were getting shot at. They had to travel at night. And then the result of that is Panama became separate, which allowed for the Panama Canal to move forward quicker. All of this time period where we had to I'll stop yapping, but anybody who wants to stay after and ask questions, you're welcome to, or browse around.